Hey guys, tonight we will embark on a calm and gentle journey, a story that will help you relax, drift into a deep, peaceful sleep, and carry you into a world where time itself seems to pause. Before we begin, make your bed comfortable, dim the lights, and let your body sink fully into relaxation. Close your eyes, take slow, deep breaths, and with each breath, feel yourself becoming lighter, calmer, more at ease. Every sound, every word, every moment of tonight's story will guide you gently into a serene and peaceful atmosphere. Imagine a fog-draped village, quiet and still, as if time has forgotten it entirely. A lone traveler wanders through misty streets, the air humming softly, carrying whispers of memory and echoes of lives long paused. The lanterns glow faintly, the bell tower hums in the distance, and shadows stretch along cobblestone paths, patiently waiting, quietly watching. Now, get completely comfortable, let your mind open to this dreamlike world, and allow yourself to drift slowly, carried away on this gentle, peaceful journey. Let's begin the story. The night was quiet, too quiet to be real. A lone traveler drove through the misty hills, with a fog curled around the headlights like pale fingers. His GPS had stopped working an hour ago. No signal, no sound, only the low hum of the engine and the faint whisper of the wind brushing through pines. A broken wooden sign appeared by the road, half buried in moss, half lost in time. It read only one word, ELD, the rest was gone. He slowed down. There was something strange about the air here. Too still, too heavy, as if it had forgotten how to move. And then he saw it, a small wooden gate by the roadside, glowing faintly in the fog. Beyond it, a narrow path led downward into the valley, toward faint lights flickering far below. They looked like candle flames, or maybe souls waiting to be found. He parked the car. When he stepped outside, the world felt colder, as though he had stepped out of time itself. Every sound vanished. No insects, no wind, not even the soft ticking of his watch. He looked at it. The second hand had stopped moving. It was 11:59 p.m., and it stayed that way. The traveler smiled nervously. Maybe it was the battery, he thought, but deep down he knew it wasn't. He crossed the gate. The hinges creaked softly, echoing in the silence like a sigh from another world. The air shimmered, the fog thickened, and then he saw the village. Small cottages made of stone and wood, lanterns burning with pale blue light, smoke rising slowly, too slowly from chimneys, as if time itself was holding its breath. People stood on the streets, but none of them moved. They looked alive and yet frozen, caught mid-step, mid-word, mid-breath. A woman was holding a basket. A child was chasing a butterfly that never moved. An old man sat by a window, his eyes open but still. The traveler whispered, "Hello." His voice vanished instantly, swallowed by the silence like it never existed. And then he heard it. A clock tower bell, distant, faint, echoing through the fog. Zong, zong, zong. It struck 12 times. Midnight. And as the final bell faded, a whisper answered, soft, almost kind, but cold as frost. The traveler stood at the edge of the forgotten village. The mist pressed close around him, heavy like breath on glass. Lanterns flickered faintly along the cobblestone path, but the flames didn't sway. They were still, frozen mid-flicker. He took a step forward. The sound of his foot echoed, 1, 2, then nothing. The silence swallowed even the sound of his steps. Every house looked alive and abandoned at the same time. Curtains were half drawn, chairs half pulled out, doors half open. It was as if the village had paused between two heartbeats, waiting for something that never came. He passed by a fountain in the center of the square. Water hung mid-air, droplets suspended like glass beads. One droplet, perfectly round, hovered an inch from his face. He stared at it, mesmerized. Then he blinked, and the droplet vanished. The traveler shivered. He didn't know why. He whispered to himself, "Maybe this is a dream." But the cold stone beneath his hand, the sharp scent of burning oil, the faint hum in the air, all felt real. Too real. The houses watched him as he walked. He could feel it, an invisible gaze behind every curtain, every still face. Even the statues seemed to breathe. A woman stood at a doorstep, her face soft and kind, eyes fixed on the horizon. He waved his hand in front of her eyes. No reaction. But as he turned away, he thought he heard a faint sigh, like a sleeping person exhaling in a dream. He spun back. The woman hadn't moved, and yet her hand now seemed slightly lower than before. It was impossible. He stepped back slowly, heart thudding softly in the silence. He wandered deeper into the village. The streets twisted like memories, familiar and strange. Every corner looked like the last. The same cracked walls, the same dim lanterns, the same silence. And yet, something changed every time he blinked. A card appeared where there was none. A cat statue turned its head. A shadow rippled across the window of a bakery that smelled faintly of cinnamon and ash. The traveler stopped at the bakery door. Inside, bread sat cooling on wooden shelves, steam frozen mid-rise. He touched it, soft, warm, still fresh. But how? He picked up a loaf, broke it, and gasped. The inside glowed faintly, like embers hidden in dough. The warmth pulsed once, then went cold. He dropped it. It didn't fall. It hovered mid-air, pieces turning slowly, caught in invisible threads of time. He backed away, and as he did, the faint hum in the air deepened, a low vibration, like something breathing beneath the ground. He followed the sound, past the silent bakery, past the motionless horses in the stable, past the bridge that crossed a stream of still water. The sound grew stronger, rhythmic. Inhale, exhale, like the village itself was sleeping. He reached a small chapel at the far end of the valley. Its doors were open, light spilling out softly. He hesitated, then stepped inside. Candles lined the altar, tall, thin, and unmoving. The wax didn't drip. The flames didn't move. But the light pulsed gently, as if in sync with a heartbeat. And behind the altar, a giant clock stood, its hands frozen at 12 o'clock, the same time his watch had stopped. He climbed the steps and touched the glass. It was warm, too warm for metal. Then he noticed the faintest movement behind it. Something inside the clock was breathing. The glass fogged slightly under his fingers. One exhale. He stepped back sharply. The hum turned into a whisper, low, layered, like 100 voices speaking through dust. "You shouldn't have come." His pulse quickened. "Who's there?" he whispered. The voices answered in unison. "You were always here." The traveler shook his head. "No, I just arrived. Time doesn't move here." The whisper sighed. "It circles. It remembers. It waits." He stumbled backward, hitting a pew. Dust rose, slow, graceful, too slow, drifting like smoke underwater. He looked at the doorway. Fog filled it now, thick and trembling. He tried to move, but his legs felt heavy, like the air itself was turning to glass around him. "You stepped through the gate." The voice continued, "And the gate remembers you." He felt a pressure in his chest. Not pain, but a strange pull like gravity in reverse, as if the village was breathing him in. He tried to run, but with every step, the chapel stretched. Rows of pews multiplying endlessly, the exit drifting farther away. His watch ticked once, then again. 12 Uhr ein Nachts, the first movement of time, and the entire village exhaled. The candles flickered wildly. The villagers moved, just slightly, heads twitching, hands trembling, eyes fluttering. The air filled with soft, broken whispers. Names, cries, laughter. The travelers stumbled into the street. The mist rippled around him, alive, awake. A boy's voice called softly, "You came back. You always come back." He turned. A child stood near the fountain, holding the same butterfly that had never moved. But now the wings fluttered slowly, rhythmically, like breathing. "Who are you?" the traveler asked. The child smiled faintly. "The village doesn't forget. It just waits for its dreamer." "Dreamer," he repeated. "When you sleep, we wake. When you wake, we sleep. You built us, remember?" He shook his head. I don't know you. I've never." The boy's voice faded as his form began to blur, melting back into fog. "You will." The whisper lingered, then silence again. He stood there for a long time, maybe minutes, maybe centuries. The mist calmed, the hum softened. His watch ticked once more, then stopped again at 12:02. The village had breathed once and gone still again. He looked around. Everything was where it had been, except one thing. A new sign nailed to the chapel door. Old wood, rough letters carved deep. "Don't let the clock strike 3." The traveler walked back toward his car. The gate stood open, the world outside still dark and quiet. But when he reached the edge, he hesitated, because now, on the other side of the gate, the road was gone, just mist, endless and white. He checked his watch again. 12:02. He looked up at the village. Somewhere far away, a bell began to breathe again, slow, patient, waiting. He whispered to himself, "I think. I'm not dreaming." The mist replied softly, "Not yet." And as the fog closed around him, he realized the truth. The village wasn't trapped in time. The fog had thinned, but the silence stayed. The traveler wandered through it like a shadow that had lost its light. Every few steps, he thought he heard movement behind him. A footstep that never echoed, a breath that never finished. When he turned, the streets were still. The village slept again. Lanterns glowed, faintly blue, reflected in windows like quiet eyes watching from another world. Somewhere far away, a bell hummed, not ringing, not tolling, but humming softly like a heartbeat beneath the ground. He followed it. The path wound upward through narrow lanes, between houses that leaned toward each other as though whispering secrets. Ivy crawled up their walls, heavy with dew. Every few feet, he passed faces frozen mid-expression. A man sweeping dust, a girl holding a lantern, a dog caught mid-leap. All unmoving, all listening. The higher he climbed, the clearer the sound became. A pulse, deep and ancient, echoing through the stone. At the top of the hill stood the clock tower. It rose above the fog like a black spine piercing the night. No light, no sound, except the low hum that came from within. He reached the base and found the door half open. The wood was warped, but warm to the touch. He pushed it gently, and the hum deepened. Inside, dust hung in the air like soft snow. The walls were covered in old gears and ropes, each one still, each one glimmering faintly under the candlelight that wasn't there. He looked up and saw the bell. Massive, ancient, carved with names. Thousands of names, etched into the bronze like veins. Some were whole, others worn away, but one line near the bottom caught his eye. Elias Ward. His name. He froze. The letters were old, carved deep, aged by time. But it was his name. He whispered, "That's impossible." The bell responded with a sound, not a chime, but a breath. A low exhale that filled the tower. Dunning. He stumbled back. The air trembled. Every name on the bell shimmered faintly, glowing blue for an instant, then fading into silence. His heart pounded. He didn't remember carving that name, and yet his body did, every nerve humming with recognition. He climbed the wooden stairs to the bell platform. Each step creaked softly, stretching the silence like thin glass. Halfway up, he noticed something carved into the railing. Words burned into the wood. When the bell remembers you, time begins again. He touched the letters. The wood pulsed faintly under his fingers. Alive. He reached the top. The bell loomed before him, motionless but breathing. He could see faint mist rising from its mouth, like frost in reverse. On the wall beside it hung a pendulum, long, black, and still. But as he approached, it twitched once. Barely, then stopped. He raised his hand toward it, and a whispering began again. Elias, Elias Ward, you left us behind. The voices came from everywhere. Walls, gears, dust, the very air. Each one sounded like a memory half remembered, like someone calling from underwater. You were the keeper, one voice said softly. The one who stopped the hours. He backed away, shaking his head. No, I'm just passing through. No one passes through, the bell sighed. They return. He looked down from the tower window. The village below shimmered faintly, like a reflection disturbed by wind. And for a moment, he saw something. The same village, but different. Alive. Children running. Fires burning bright. Music from the tavern. The fountain flowing clear. And himself, younger, standing in the square, ringing the bell. Keeper of hours, someone called in that vision. Ring it only when the sun forgets to rise. Then the image shattered, and the village below froze again. He clutched the railing, breath shaking. What is this place? He whispered. A memory you left unfinished. He turned to the bell. Why my name? Why am I here? Because you broke the circle, the voice said. You stopped time to save them, and now you must pay the rest of it. He didn't understand. Save who? Everyone who refused to leave, the bell murmured. When the river rose, when the fire came, you bound their hours to yours. He closed his eyes. Images flashed, water swallowing streets. Firelight flickering on faces. A hand reaching through smoke. He remembered the gate, the decision, the sound of a bell, one final chime before silence. He whispered, I trapped them. You kept them safe, the voice replied. But safety is another kind of stillness. The air trembled. The pendulum swung once. A soft metallic note ringing out like a sigh. 12:03. Outside, the villagers twitched again. 1,000 eyes flickered open. 1,000 breaths returned. The village was waking, slowly, painfully. But the sound was wrong, like a choir breathing instead of singing. The traveler, Elias, watched through the window. People were moving in half speed, turning their heads, raising their hands, looking toward the tower. Toward him, he heard the same whisper from every corner, the same words carried by every voice. Ring it again. Set us free. He shook his head. No, I don't know what it'll do. The bell remembers, they whispered. The bell forgives. He stepped toward the rope that hung from the bell. His fingers trembled as he reached for it. The metal was warm, like living skin. He looked down at his watch. The second hand twitched once, twice, then began to move again. 12 hours, 3 minutes, and 1 second. 12 hours, 3 minutes, and 2 seconds. 12:03:03. The first time in forever that time moved freely. He took a deep breath and pulled. The sound was soft at first, a gentle wave of sound rolling through the mist. Then it deepened, vast, resonant, like thunder heard through water. The entire tower shook. The glass cracked. The air shimmered. Down below, the villagers moved faster. Faces lighting up, tears falling, voices breaking the silence. The fountain began to flow again. The mist turned golden, and the names on the bell began to fade. One by one, each ring erased a memory. Elias realized too late. The bell wasn't freeing them. It was unmaking them. He pulled the rope again, once, twice, trying to stop the sound, but it only grew stronger. The tower walls cracked. Wind tore through the village, scattering light like ash. "You forgot the rule," whispered the voice of the bell. "Don't let it strike 3. He looked at his watch. 12:02 had turned to 12:59. The seconds spun faster and faster. A blur of motion. "Stop," he shouted. "Please." The bell roared in answer. One long, terrible note that bent the sky. Dong, dong, and then the final one. Dong, 3. The sound burst through the mist like light breaking glass. Everything froze mid-motion. The villagers, the air, even the sound. Silence again, but deeper now. Not peace, but void. When Elias opened his eyes, the village was gone. Only fog, and the faint outline of the bell tower behind him, half buried in clouds. He stood alone, the ground beneath him soft, dreamlike. He looked at his hands. They shimmered faintly, fading at the edges. The voice came once more, soft and kind this time, like a lullaby through wind. "You freed them, Keeper. Now rest." He smiled faintly. For the first time, he felt tired. He sat down, closed his eyes, and listened as the bell faded into the distance, counting not hours, but memories. The fog curled around him, soft as sleep, and when it cleared, the road was empty. A lone car sat at the gate, engine cold, headlights dim. Inside it, a watch stopped forever at 3 a.m. Elias woke to silence. Not ordinary silence, the kind that fills empty rooms, but the heavy, expectant silence of a place holding its breath. The fog had returned, thick, white, curling around his legs like fingers reaching up from the earth. The bell tower was gone, the village gone, only mist. Yet the mist felt alive. It pulsed with something older than memory, moving as if it had purpose. He rose slowly, each movement echoing in the stillness. The air smelled faintly of earth and smoke, like a fire long extinguished. It's somehow still burning somewhere inside the fog. He started walking. The mist parted for him, sometimes, and closed behind him. It was gentle at first like a guide, then pressing, watching, shaping his path. Whispers floated through it, soft and layered. "Elias, remember, come back." The voices were faint, distant, and yet unmistakably his own name carried on every sigh. He called out, "Who's there?" No answer, only the fog bending around him, moving like breath. He realized the mist wasn't just a veil. It was aware. It remembered, and it remembered him. As he walked, images began to form in the haze. A woman, smiling, standing in a doorway he had never entered. A child chasing a butterfly that shimmered like silver dust. Fires flickering in homes long erased. Each image appeared and dissolved before he could reach it. He tried to speak, to touch them, but the mist parted, leaving only faint echoes behind. "Do you remember?" The voices whispered. "Do you remember the ones you left behind?" Elias shook his head. I thought I saved them," he said. "I thought I freed them." "You freed some," the mist replied, "but some are still waiting." The air grew colder. A shiver ran down his spine as the mist thickened. Shapes moved inside it. Not human, not entirely. A half glimmer of faces, hands, eyes, frozen in longing. He stumbled and fell. The ground beneath him felt soft, almost liquid. When he touched it, his fingers sank into cool, misty tendrils, and he felt memories. Old, forgotten moments that weren't entirely his own. The mist drew him upward. A hill appeared, unseen before, rising through the fog. At its top, a circle of stones glowed faintly. He approached, and the fog parted. Inside the circle were objects scattered, yet precise. A broken watch stopped at 12:03. A child's toy, carved from wood, half buried in moss. A lantern, flickering with blue flame. He recognized them instantly. They were echoes of the village, fragments of lives held in the pause between seconds. The mist swirled around the stones. A voice came, calm and patient. "These are the moments you forgot to remember." He knelt, touched the watch, felt the warmth of the flame. The mist pulsed under his fingers. I didn't mean to forget," he whispered. The mist responded. It shifted around him, lifting into forms. Faces of villagers he hadn't yet seen. Shadows of laughter. Whispers of sorrow, fear, joy. "Forgetting is only the beginning," it said. "Remembering is what awakens them." He closed his eyes. Memories flooded him. The smell of bread, warm and soft. The bell tower's hum, deep and resonant. Hands reaching, faces smiling, voices calling. He saw the child with the butterfly, the woman in the doorway, and the old man in the window. He remembered their names. He remembered their lives. He remembered their stillness and their longing to move again. When he opened his eyes, the mist had thickened further. Shapes moved inside it, not just echoes now, but something alive. The mist whispered again. The bell counts the forgotten. The mist remembers those who remain. You must choose, follow the bell or follow the mist. Elias hesitated. The bell had taken so much. The mist offered a chance to undo it, to reach the ones still trapped in time. He chose the mist. As he stepped forward, the mist opened path. It lifted like water, flowing around him, guiding him toward shadows deeper than the fog. Shapes appeared, children frozen mid-laugh, men and women caught in mid-step, mid-breath, animals, flowers, trees, even falling leaves suspended in air. He touched each one lightly. The mist pulsed, and slowly, almost painfully, the shapes began to move. A hand twitched, a foot shifted, eyes blinked. "Remember," he whispered. "Remember who you are." And they did. Time flowed differently here. Minutes stretched into hours. Hours stretched into moments. The mist spoke softly with every pulse. Memory is the tether. The forgotten are never lost, only waiting. Elias walked among them, guiding them, helping them relearn the rhythm of life. Some hesitated, afraid of movement, afraid of change. He held their hands. He whispered names, memories, songs. And slowly, the village began to awaken again. He reached the fountain. Water flowed clear, reflecting the sky, or what passed for sky in a mist. Children played near it, laughing softly. The woman from the doorway smiled, brushing her hair back. Everything was still dreamlike, not fully real, but moving. The bell counts the forgotten, the mist whispered one last time. But those who remember are free. Elias knelt beside the fountain, touched the water, felt the warmth of life returning to it. He closed his eyes, breathing in the mist, letting it fill him. "I remember," he said softly. "I remember them all." The mist pulsed and shifted, folding itself around him. It was warm, soft, alive. And in that moment, Elias understood. He was not alone. He had never been. Time, memory, the village, they were all a part of him, and he a part of them. The fog lifted slightly. The sun, or its memory, shimmered faintly through the haze. Shapes moved faster now. Voices sang quietly in the air. Laughter, whispers, sighs of relief. Elias stood, feeling light. The mist swirled around him, a final pulse, then receded to the edges of the village. Watchful but calm, patient and knowing. The road ahead opened, winding down through hills shrouded in fog. He could leave. He could stay. He chose neither. He walked into the mist, not as a traveler, not as a keeper, but as someone who remembers. And behind him, the village breathed. Alive, Elias walked the winding road away from the mist-laden village, the fog curling at his feet like soft smoke. The path seemed endless, though hills were gentle, rolling. He remembered the warmth of the village returning to motion, the children laughing, the air vibrating with quiet life. Yet something had shifted. Behind him, just beyond sight, he felt it. A faint vibration, a whisper, a pulse of memory. The echoes of the village were following him. He paused. Nothing visible, only the sound of his own breath, soft and steady, and the faintest whisper of a child laughing, distant but near. Elias. The voice was soft, like wind through a broken window. He shook his head. "I've left it all behind," he said. But the words didn't carry. The fog seemed to swallow them before they left his lips. He reached a forest at the edge of the hills. Tall, silent pines stretched skyward, needles whispering faintly. The sunlight, or memory of it, filtered through, dappled and hazy. He hoped the forest would absorb the echoes, would hide them, let him walk untroubled. It did not. The shadows moved in ways the light could not explain. Branches bent slightly, forming faces in the shadows. Leaves rustled, even when no wind stirred. And the whispering grew louder, layered voices speaking at once. Each one calling him by name, each one remembering. He stumbled forward, tripping over roots and fallen leaves. Every step felt heavier than the last. The echoes were not cruel, not angry. They were insistent. "Do not forget us. We are here. You cannot leave." Night fell. Stars emerged, but they were distant, cold, and indifferent. The forest thickened. Every shadow lengthened, moving just at the edge of his vision. He stopped. His heart raced, yet he felt strangely calm. He remembered the mist. It had taught him something vital. Memories do not vanish. They linger like echoes in a cave. He exhaled slowly. "Then I will walk with you," he whispered, "not run from you." The forest shifted as if approving. A faint light glowed ahead, barely visible. Not the village, not the sun, but a soft, persistent shimmer. He moved toward it. The light revealed a clearing. In the center, a small stone bench stood, worn by time, moss-covered. He sat, exhausted, letting the echoes surround him. They came in fragments now. A child's laughter, the sound of water, the smell of bread baking, the flicker of a lantern. Each memory a pulse, each echo a gentle brush against his mind. He closed his eyes, let them wash over him. The whispers softened, forming a single, harmonious hum, like a lullaby sung by an unseen choir. He could feel it. The village was alive, even far away, even beyond the mist. And he, their keeper, carried them now, not in chains, but in memory, in the quiet places of the mind. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time moved oddly here, flowing like slow water. The echoes became shadows, then faces, then faint smiles. He could feel them walking beside him, walking in rhythm with his heartbeat. He rose from a bench. The forest path opened ahead, and for the first time since leaving the village, he felt the road beneath his feet as solid, as real. Yet the echoes stayed, always there. A wind rustled the trees. One voice, clearer than the rest, whispered, "You are not alone." Elias nodded. He did not respond. Words felt unnecessary. The path eventually led to a small village he recognized, his own home, or what he remembered as home. But nothing was as it had been. Shadows moved differently. The air hummed faintly, and the echoes of the village lingered in the corners, in reflections on glass, in the smell of the earth. and the faint flicker of candlelight. He stepped inside. Familiar walls, familiar furniture. Yet he could sense the echoes threading through them. Softly, invisibly, he lay down on his bed, closed his eyes, and the whispers came again. Not threatening, not pleading, simply present. We remember you. We follow you. He exhaled, letting them in. There was no fear, only the calm, deep understanding that he carried a world inside him now. And in that calm, the faintest smile touched his lips. The echoes had found their home, and he had found his purpose. Outside, the night sky stretched endlessly. Stars flickered, clouds drifted, and the world continued. The village, the mist, the bell, all folded into memory, carried forward in quiet, gentle waves. Somewhere far away, the fog still swirled, a soft, patient presence, waiting, breathing softly through the edges of reality. Elias drifted into sleep, not haunted, not afraid, but carrying the village in the quiet chambers of his mind, where echoes do not fade. And in the distance, the faint toll of a bell sounded, not counting hours, but counting memory. Elias awoke to a faint movement in the room, not the sway of trees outside, not the flicker of candlelight, but shadows moving along the walls. At first, he thought it was morning light, but the sun had not yet risen. The shapes were darker than darkness, fluid yet defined, shifting like smoke shaped by memory. He held his breath. The shadows paused, as if aware of him. Elias. The whisper came from everywhere, not the walls, not the ceiling, but inside his mind. He rose slowly, feet touching the floor softly. Every step he took seemed mirrored by another, a shadow stretching, bending, following him, yet never fully matching him. He walked to the window. Outside, the mist lingered on the distant hills, curling and twisting. And inside, the shadows moved closer to him. They were patient, watching, almost alive. He touched one. It felt cold yet soft, like silk over ice. The shadow pulsed, and a faint image flickered inside it. A memory, not his own entirely. Children running in the square, the bell tolling, lanterns glowing. He pulled back. The shadow followed. "You cannot leave," it whispered. "We remember your steps." Elias closed his eyes. He had freed the villagers, returned their memories to motion. But now the echoes had become something else. Guardians, witnesses, companions. He shivered. Yet, despite the chill, he felt no fear. Only the realization that the village had never truly left him. He stepped outside. The street was empty, the town silent. Yet with each step, the shadows mirrored him. Sometimes ahead, sometimes behind, sometimes curling around his ankles. The whispers grew softer, more coherent. "We are here. We follow. Remember." Elias spoke aloud. "I remember you. I remember everything. I carry you with me." The shadows paused. For a moment, they seemed to bow, then flowed with him, joining his steps like a slow river of memory. He walked through the village square. Everything looked ordinary, yet he knew it was not. The fountain sparkled in morning light, children laughed, but echoes lingered in corners. The faint blue glow of lanterns, the memory of a bell tolling far away. The shadows shifted along the edges of vision, sometimes becoming indistinct faces of villagers, sometimes simple shapes stretching long across cobblestones. Elias realized the truth. The shadows were remnants, pieces of memory that did not fully inhabit reality. They were alive because he remembered. They followed because he walked, and they would not rest until he fully understood. He stopped by the old bakery. The smell of bread filled the air, fresh, warm, impossible. Inside, the shadows gathered. A loaf of bread sat on the counter, glowing faintly. He picked it up. The shadow of a child appeared beside him. Tiny, flickering, laughing softly. "You freed us," it said. "But we linger." Elias nodded. "I will walk with you," he whispered, "until you can rest." And the shadow smiled. Not a full smile, but a quiet, knowing gesture. Then it merged into the others, flowing like water across the floor. The day passed strangely. Shadows followed his every movement. In shops, in streets, along the river. They were patient, silent, never aggressive. Sometimes they mimicked actions he had not yet done, foreshadowing, warning, guiding. He began to understand the rhythm. Shadows appear when memory is strong. They follow when action connects to the past. They vanish when acknowledgement is given. Elias experimented, stepping carefully. He touched a shadow, it shimmered. He spoke to it, it paused. He walked past, it followed, matching his pace like a faithful companion. "We are your history," the whispers said. "You cannot abandon us. You cannot forget who walks with you." By evening, the shadows had multiplied, not just near him, but along the rooftops, flickering behind windows, drifting along streets. The village was alive in ways unseen by ordinary eyes. He climbed the hill above the square. From there, he could see the mist-laden hills beyond the town. The sun had set, but the sky was neither day nor night. A deep gray, soft and endless. He turned, and the shadows behind him moved in waves. Faces, bodies, fragments of life, all bending toward him, silent but insistent. He realized he was no longer just a traveler. He was a keeper, not of the village alone, but of its memory, its echoes, its shadows. And the shadows remembered him, not just the steps he had taken, but the moments he had forgotten, the choices he had made, the love, fear, sorrow, and joy he had once ignored. Night deepened. The streets were empty now. The echoes of the bell, faint and distant, pulsed softly in the air. The shadows gathered around the fountain, flowing like liquid ink. One by one, they circled him, forming shapes, faces, gestures familiar yet strange. Elias closed his eyes. He could feel every memory, every life, every echo. The laughter of children, the warmth of bread baking, the hum of the bell tower, the soft sigh of mist curling around stone. "We are here," the whispers said. "We follow." He exhaled. "I am here," he whispered back. "I remember. I will carry you with me." And with that, the shadows bowed gently, then flowed like smoke into the streets, covering every corner, filling every empty space, until the village itself seemed to breathe as one. The night stretched endlessly. Elias walked. The shadows followed. The echoes whispered. And the village, alive in memory and shadow, moved with him. He realized that home was no longer a place. It was the memory of a village, carried in shadows, whispered in fog, living in the heartbeat of time. And so he walked, slowly, endlessly, softly, through streets, hills, mist, and memory, always accompanied, always remembered. And somewhere far away, in the edge of fog, the bell's faint hum lingered, counting not hours, but footsteps, counting not time, but memory, counting not endings, but echoes. Elias smiled. He would not be alone. He could never be alone, because shadows remembered, and shadows never let go. The night had fallen like a heavy curtain. Elias wandered the fog-laden streets, the shadows flowing behind him in silent obedience. The village, alive only in memory, whispered softly with every footstep. He had walked these roads countless times, yet every turn felt unfamiliar, as though the streets themselves reshaped to reflect forgotten moments. Somewhere in the distance, faint light flickered. It called to him, not as a beacon, but as a memory reaching through the fog. He followed. The light led him to the edge of a clearing he had never seen before. There, perched atop a low hill, stood a structure unlike the rest of the village. A small tower of black stone, smooth yet ancient, glowing faintly with a pale, silver light from within. Its door carved with intricate runes that shimmered in the dim glow. Above it, a single window glowed brighter than the others, and through the mist he saw a faint silhouette. Elias approached. The air around the tower felt different, heavier, denser, pulsing with quiet energy. A low hum thrummed through the ground, matching the rhythm of his own heartbeat. He reached the door. It opened silently, without a touch, as if expecting him. Inside, the air smelled of dust and candle wax, yet also of something older, memory itself, woven into the stone walls and thick wooden beams. In the center of the room stood an hourglass, enormous, its frame blackened wood, etched with tiny symbols he could not decipher. The glass itself shimmered faintly, filled with sand that seemed to glow from within. And the sand did not fall. Or perhaps it fell, slowly, impossibly slow, grains suspended midair, catching the faint silver light. The hourglass of forgotten souls. A voice whispered, soft and deep, "Time holds them. Memory preserves them. And now you are here." Elias stepped closer. As he approached, he saw faces forming in the sand. Vague, shifting, yet unmistakably human. The faces turned to him, eyes wide, mouths opening in silent pleas. He recognized them immediately. The woman in the doorway from the village square, the child with the silver butterfly, the old man who had watched him from a window. All trapped, all waiting. He reached out, touching the glass. It was warm, pulsing faintly alive. The sand shifted slightly at his touch, and whispers filled the room. Hundreds of voices, overlapping, soft, insistent like wind through leaves. "Elias," the whispers said, "why did you leave us? Why did you let time pause?" He closed his eyes, swallowing the lump in his throat. "I did not leave you," he whispered. I freed some. I gave you life again." Some, the voice said. "But there are those forgotten, the souls who linger between seconds. The ones the bell could not reach. The ones the mist could not recall." Elias's fingers lingered on the hourglass. Inside, a faint figure rose, a woman he had not yet met. Caught mid-step, hair flowing like water. She opened her mouth silently, as if begging for release. He realized every grain of sand was a soul, a memory, each frozen in time until someone remembered them. He reached for the hourglass rope, a thin chain attached to the top, its link twisting with silver energy. With a careful pull, the sand began to flow, one grain at a time, faint blue light spreading through each soul. The whispers grew louder, but no longer pleading, grateful, sighing, humming with life. Faces smiled at him. Hands reached for him. Some blurred and vanished as they returned fully to memory. "Remember us," a voice said. "Do not let us fall again." Elias nodded. "I will remember. Always." And the hourglass continued to flow. Hours passed, or perhaps minutes. Time had no meaning here. He could feel the weight of every memory, every life, every moment frozen in the village and now in him. The shadows outside the tower moved closer, drawn to the glow. They circled him silently, forming shapes of hands, faces, and whispers. Elias closed his eyes, letting the energy of the hourglass and the shadows merge. A wave of warmth and sorrow swept through him. He felt their pain, their joy, their fear, and he understood the truth. To remember is to live. To forget is to die again. The hourglass pulsed brighter. Grains of sand shifted faster, faces rising and dissolving into his mind like waves of light. A sudden chill ran through the tower. The silhouettes of shadows flickered, restless, impatient. He opened his eyes. The largest shadow hovered over him, darker than the rest, its edges blurred. "You cannot carry all," it whispered. "Some will remain. Some will fall into the void if you are not careful." Elias swallowed. "Yes," he said softly, "but I can try. I can remember them all." "Try," the shadow said. "But beware, the hourglass counts not only the forgotten, but the cost to those who hold memory." He realized, for the first time, that the hourglass did not just hold the village's memories. It linked to him. Every soul released, every grain of sand. Touched him, marked him. Touched him, marked him, changed him. And every moment of carelessness, every forgotten echo, could trap another forever. He sat beside the hourglass. The sand continued to flow. Faces shimmered in and out. Whispers wove a soft melody around him. Sad, calm, eternal. He felt exhaustion in his bones. Not ordinary fatigue, but the weight of centuries, the burden of memory itself. Yet he did not stop. He would not stop. Each soul freed, each memory restored. Was a life returned to the world. "Remember us," they whispered. "Do not let the void take us." He nodded silently, tears streaming. Each tear felt like a grain of sand, falling into the hourglass, merging with their light. The shadows moved closer, watching, assisting, bending reality slightly so the flow could continue. Time moved strangely. Minutes stretched into hours, hours into moments. Elias worked tirelessly, his hands moving over the hourglass, touching, guiding, remembering. Some souls were easy, simple memories, faint echoes. Others resisted, dark grains of sand, flickering with sorrow. Faces contorting, hands grasping nothing. He whispered their names. He recalled every detail, every laugh, every sigh, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, they flowed into life again, leaving the hourglass light. Their whispers now peaceful, almost song-like. "Thank you," one said softly. "You remembered." Elias smiled faintly. "I will remember you always." By dawn, the tower was quiet. The hourglass still flowed, but lightly, gently, like water over stones. The shadows, now calm, circled the tower once, then merged into the walls, the floor, the corners. Watching, guarding, waiting. Elias stood. He was changed. Older, perhaps, or perhaps younger in ways the mind cannot measure. Time had left its mark on him, as had memory, as had the weight of souls freed from the pause between seconds. He stepped outside. The mist lingered on the hills, soft and white. The village below shimmered faintly